Hello and welcome to the Adafruit CircuitPython Weekly, first of the year, January 6th, 2020. My name is Scott and I work on CircuitPython for Adafruit. They are my sponsors. This meeting, wow. Not only have I not done this in a while, but I also have a cold. This meeting is done every week on Mondays at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern on the Adafruit Discord server, which everybody is invited to join. Go to the URL adafru.it/discord to join. We're in the text chat all week, and we're in the voice chat during this meeting. And as I say, everybody's welcome to participate in this meeting, so hop on there and do that. If we do shift around when that happens, we'll ping CircuitPythonistas on the Discord server. So let us know if you want to get notified about that stuff, and we'll add you to the CircuitPythonistas role so you get notified about that. This meeting is run in 5 parts. We start with the community news, which is an overview of what's happening in the CircuitPython community. We follow that up with the state of CircuitPython and its libraries, which is overall view of the project broadly, and then we talk about kind of the 3 core components: the core, which is the CircuitPython C code, the libraries, and blinka as well, which is a compatibility layer on in CPython on Linux for CircuitPython libraries. After that section, we have a section called Hug Reports. We do this as a round robin, so I will start and then go through the list of the folks that are in the voice chat, intermixing any notes that happen to be put in the note stock. So we do go alphabetically. We don't start at the top. If you're in the voice chat and you either don't have a microphone or just want me to read stuff off, let us know you're text only. And if you're just here to listen and not participate, just let us know you're lurking, and we'll skip right over you. And that's not a problem. We're happy to have you here. So that's round robin. Hug Reports generally is a chance for you to say thank you to folks for the work that they've been doing in the community. We should have lots of good stuff this week, since this is the first voice meeting we've had in 3 weeks, I think. So that's been cool. And then after Hug Reports, we have status updates, which is done as a round robin as well. So again, let us know if you're lurking or text only. And then it's a chance for you to spend a couple minutes talking about what you've been working on and what you kind of plan on continuing to work on. That will be, it's really good to stay in sync with everybody, and it's also a great place for you to get tips and tricks on the stuff that you're hoping to do in the future, pointers for stuff, that sort of thing. And then lastly, we have a section called In the Weeds, which is a chance for folks to just bring up any topics they want to discuss with the community. If you have a topic for there, just please pull up the note stock and throw it in the Weeds section. We'll kind of just go down the list there and cover those topics. The meeting tends to take about an hour, or maybe even a little bit more. So just be prepared. If you can't make the whole meeting, let us know, and we're happy to let you speak before you have to take off. And lastly, I should say that the meeting is being recorded. We record it so that we can post it to podcast services along with Adafruit YouTube channel and Diode Zone. So the videos are available, so even the text in the CircuitPython channel is being recorded, and the voice chat is being recorded as well. So let us know if that's a problem, or just beware that if you don't want your voice recorded, just do text only, and that's cool. We do have a note stock as well, and those notes get posted with a link to... They are linked to from the video descriptions, so you can find them that way. There's also just a GitHub repo of all of them, so you can find them all there, and they link back to the videos as well, so it's all good. And with that, I will take a time code so that the notes are kind of aligned with the time in the video, and we'll kick it over to Phil for community news.
All right, thank you so much, Scott, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Okay, so every year we ask everyone, what do you want from CircuitPython in 2020? So there's a blog post Scott put up there. There's a bunch that are coming in. Check out the blog post and see all the different ways you can let us know what you want to see in CircuitPython. It could be anything from specific things in the core to what we're doing in the community to the type of guides we're writing. We're opening this up for a few more days. Of course, all year long. We listen and all work together, but now's a really good time because we'll put the blog post on the site. And if you look at the previous years, we've all worked together and got a lot of this stuff done. So congratulations to the folks who wanted to see something in this community effort and were able to do it. And then looking forward to all the folks in the community who want to do some stuff as well. Over the break, a bunch of stuff happened. We got 200 plus libraries. So we did our usual 200 thanks. We got a nice graphic with Blinka. We hit 95 boards, and we also have 34 boards in Blinka. Special thanks to Melissa and Justin. We have a little counter on there now, so I don't have to do a find and then count the number of times a word appears or something like that. So that's kind of neat. That was fun too. And the other thing is for the boards, I think it's interesting and special and kind of shows where our head is at with how we want to do a very cool, inclusive ecosystem and community. There's more non-Adafruit boards than Adafruit boards with CircuitPython. So I think that's really cool. That's a sign that it's valuable enough and there's enough interest. Same thing with Feather. That's an open spec. There's more not Adafruit things with Feather than Adafruit things at this point. We released a couple preview videos and more. So Clue, that's kind of our next platformer, I guess. I don't know if it's appropriate to call it a platformer like they do in gaming lands. But one of the things we wanted to do is have something that's filled with sensors. And when we were starting to come up with this, the more we tossed on things on a board, the more it started to be the same shape as a microbit. So we're like, hey, we should just do a microbit compatible as far as the shape so you can use accessories and more. So there's a link to the video and kind of our overview, and you'll see this each week. One of the things we do is we work in the open. So when you're seeing hardware, sometimes it's literally off the desk of Lady Ada from her screen, and then when we get the prototypes and we show it, we get a lot of rapid feedback this way, and we're going to continue to do that. And then last night we did a little video. This is a preview of the Feather Bluefruit Sense. This is jamming as many possible sensors into a Feather Bluefruit form factor. I'm excited about this one because it'll just unlock a lot of things for a lot of people, and you get all the benefits of CircuitPython with that. We did our top 10. You're kind of required if you run a popular blog to do like a bunch of top 10 things. So one of the things that I thought would be interesting for the community meeting is our top product of the last decade. That's all the products all together the last 10 years. You'd think it'd be something a few years ago. It's actually Circuit Playground. And one of the reasons is all the things it can do, and specifically with Circuit Playground Express, you can run Python and CircuitPython. So that became our number one product of the decade. So thank you everyone who's worked on it or contributed code or gave one to a kid or mentored someone at a school. It's one of our favorite boards. Now we have a Bluefruit form factor. So I expect the Bluefruit one will probably, or the Bluefruit ones will probably climb up the list pretty fast. I wanted to give a shout out to Cedar Grove. One of the coolest projects I've seen recently is the thermal camera project. And as Cedar Grove is learning how Display IO works, there's these really nice graphics. It actually helped me understand it better too. So now I'm like, oh, okay, it just clicked. It made sense. So check out this project. It's in the newsletter, but I also put all the links here. A lot of folks got something that ran CircuitPython over the holidays, and they were making projects. And one of the things, if you ever see these tweets, like retweet them, or if you can also email us, a joy to prototype with. I was trying like that. It's only a few small words, but it's like, oh right, that like sometimes the community says the thing that just crystallizes exactly what we're working on. Like a joy to prototype with. Like yeah, like easy to prototype with is always something that I say. It's like, oh why use CircuitPython? But a joy to prototype with, and you can see the project that the person did. We're here because we're Code Plus community, and that those words came from the community too. Serpente shields are out. There's two of them, I think, now. Arturo, who made the Serpente, which is a Circuit Python compatible board. You can check out these cool little shields. I don't know if they're going to call them shields long term, but I always like it when there's a new form factor and then people are able to make the things that they want to make with it and can focus on the very neat solutions and not have to worry about things like, well, how do I get the libraries to work? How do I get all the firmware to work? How do I do all those things? Let's check that out. It's is public domain day, and the Cleveland Museum of Art, they have an open access API. You can use Python. And our actually a friend of the company, Michael Weinberg, he's a lawyer who's learning Python, did a neat Python project, and then Dan, who's in our community, immediately made a PyPortal. So with public domain day and a lot of museums starting to do this, if they have art, you can easily put stuff on screens. And I think that's one of the things that was kind of hard to do a long time ago, but now it's getting a lot easier. So if you ever wanted to have like just cool art that's just kind of playing all the time, and you want to use something that's low cost, and you know what it is, it's an IoT device that you know everything about it. It's open source software and open source hardware. It's not a weirdo IoT device that's spying on you. You can make something like this. Um, this one, it's in the UK, but I wanted to mention anyways because Antol is a very prolific member of the community. There is the Cambridge Python meeting. It's like now, Tuesday, January, or getting close to now, Tuesday, January 7th. And Nick is going to be talking about developing developers. They usually have a recording of the talk, and I'll try to get that on the blog and the newsletters because a lot of us, we make tools for tool makers. We make Lego bricks for others to make their own things that they want to build. At Adafruit, we make a lot of things so other people can make stuff. So this talk looks interesting, developing developers. A milestone that we hit as I wrap up the community notes, we have an unusually large number of subscribers to a Python newsletter, 7,000 people already. So it's our fastest growing newsletter, and this is all the community news that we do here each week, all the things going on, all of the general Python on hardware news, from MicroPython to blinka to just Python being used in industry and more. And so it's still taking off. So thanks everyone throughout the year sending in links and tips and emailing me. It helps. We have a pretty big net that we cast out to find all these things, but every single week there's something unique that we've never seen that someone from the community has managed to find. The draft newsletter is here. You can check it out. There's always time for some pull requests before the end of the day today. You can also get us on Twitter or here. The chip's out tomorrow, 11 a.m. And with that, Happy New Year, everyone. I'm going to go back to helping a little more run a Adafruit here. But I just want to say our promise is always to make a really cool, inclusive, open thing that's special, that's valuable for people. And CircuitPython has been a big part of that. So thank you, everybody. This is one of the things we look forward to every single week, especially all the cool projects that have been coming out of this and people being surprised how easy and how joyful it is to prototype with. And that is the community news.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Phil.
Thank you.
All right. Let's go to the second section, which is the state of CircuitPython and its libraries. This is the section where we give kind of a objective statistics look at the health of the project. We've been evolving this recently, which is awesome. And if you have feedback on numbers you'd like to see in this section, please let us know as well. So overall, we've had... let me take a time code. The cat is upset that I'm talking, and she's jumping into a box. So overall, we had 133 pull requests merged, which I think is a record, which doesn't surprise me. We had 14 authors, myself, Brent, Melissa, D. Cloud, D. Halbert, Philip Keller, and Hotak. Hotak, D. Harada, Dishibu, Katney, Colin, Roy, Faroeen, and Hierophect. So thank you to all our authors for 133 pull requests. I have a feeling a lot of those are from D. Harada, who's been doing the update to GitHub Actions. So thanks to all those folks for doing that. And we had 8 reviewers. So we had new reviewers. I think most of those are standard folks. So thank you to our 8 reviewers. If you do want to get started, let us know. And reviewing is a great way because it's I'm going to kick the cat out. She's chewing styrofoam. Hold on just a sec. She usually tips over a garbage can when I'm talking and disturbing her, but she decided to chew on bubble wrap instead. Okay, sorry. Yeah, so reviewing is great. Let us know if you want to get started with that. We're happy to help. So overall, issues wise, we had 11 closed issues by 5 people and 11 opens by 10 people. So we're pretty net there, which is great. Um, and we don't want to add more issues over time. So keeping track of that rate is really good. So overall, we're getting close to like stabilizing 5.0 so that we can do a 5.0 stable release. We have just a couple more BLE features we'd like to get in, and then it'll just be hunting down the major bugs that we have. So please try the latest beta. I think we'll definitely try to get beta 3 out this week, and let us know what issues you have and what things you'd like to see in there, and we'll go from there. Okay, that is overall. On the core side, we had 8 pull requests merged from 7 different authors. DGloud is a new author, so thanks to DGloud. We had 3 reviewers, myself, Dan, and Lady Ada, so thanks to those folks. We have 10 open pull requests, where our oldest open pull request is 151 days, which is better than before, I believe, because we got an exciting one in, but I won't spoil it. So 10 open pull requests. Issues-wise, we had 3 closed issues by 3 people and 4 open by 4 people for a total of 213 open issues. So we're, again, growing a little bit, and that's kind of been our jam, just adding some longer-term stuff. We have 157 long-term issues, and we have 14 issues not assigned to milestones. So those are 2 kind of interesting metrics. I would expect to see our issue numbers change a lot more once we're kind of feature complete on 5.0, which shouldn't be too long, as I said earlier. We have 97 total supported boards, which is an amazing number. We're almost to 100, so keep it up. In the notes, we have download stats by board. I will not go over those here. They're by board, and they're also by language. If you're curious, you can check those out. Overall download numbers, 412 is our latest stable, which we did to just update some CircuitPython library stuff. We've had 4,147 downloads of that, which is actually quite impressive because it's only been out a few weeks. The majority of those, actually, let's look. Trinket is 350, PyPortal 271. Circuit Playground Express is 799. So it's kind of interesting to see which boards are the most popular there. And on the unstable side, we have 5.0 Beta 2, which is 1,599 downloads. So, CPB beat CPX this week in downloads. Interesting. Yeah, for those of you who haven't gotten on the Bluetooth train, I highly recommend trying it out. It's very, very cool. Anyway, that's the state of the core. Let's kick it over to Kattni for the state of the libraries.
Thanks, Scott. So, libraries this week. We had 125 pull requests merged, which, as you said, is definitely due to Dylan and his monumental move of all of our libraries from Travis to GitHub Actions. And there's still a little bit more to do there, so we're still going to see some high numbers, I think, for the next week as well. We had 8 authors. I don't recognize Philip Keller, so thank you, or Fairlene. So thank you to those 2 for joining us. And we had 6 reviewers. We currently have 58 open pull requests. A number of those are actions ones, at least based on the number of days they're open. My guess is that at least half of those are actions related. We still have fairly old ones, and something that we definitely need to do, and that is on my list of things to do fairly soon, is to start going through these older PRs and figuring out what they are and what we want to do with them, and so on and so forth. I know people have been finding some and doing some with them, so thank you for following up on that, those of you who have been digging through some of the older pull requests. Issues-wise, we had 8 closed issues by 3 people and 7 open by 7 people. We are net down by 1 for 140 open issues. If you'd like to see a list of those, you can go to circuitpython.org/contributing. There's all kinds of information there about the libraries because it is difficult to aggregate information when you're talking about over 200 different GitHub repos. So we created a section on CircuitPython.org that tracks all of that. So if you want to see open issues, open PRs, and a series of library infrastructure issues, you can view all of that on CircuitPython.org/contributing. And we have had 5 updated libraries in the last 7 days, no new libraries. And that is where we're at with the libraries.
Awesome. Thank you, Katney. Okay, let's kick it over to Melissa for Blinka updates.
Hello. Let's see here. Okay. Yeah. So for Blinka, which is our CircuitPython compatibility layer in CPython on Linux for Raspberry Pi and other single board computers, we had 2 pull requests merged. We had one author, me, and 2 reviewers, and we have 2 open pull requests still. One of them is just an incomplete one. The other one I'm going to be looking at this week, and one closed issue by one person and one open by one person. And there are a total of 26 open issues right now. And for PyPI downloads in the last week, there were 1,381, and the number of supported boards is 55 right now.
Nice. Yeah, if you ever have incomplete ones and like the person's not getting back to you, feel free to just close it.
Okay, yeah.
That won't delete their branch or anything, so they can still
Good point, yeah.
They can still recreate a pull request.
They're like really close on it. They only had like a couple files to edit, but then they kind of stopped working on it.
The other thing you can do is you could just fix it if you want it in.
I might just do that.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks, Melissa.
Yeah.
Okay, Hug Report time. Hug Reports is a chance for us to say thank you to folks for the work that they've been doing in our community. Really appreciate it. The way it works is it's done as a round robin, so I will start and then we'll go through the list of the folks in the voice channel along with mixing folks in who just drop notes in the notes doc. Those I will read off. If you're in the voice channel and you just want to listen in, let us know you're lurking. If you don't want to speak, but you have stuff to say, just drop them either in the text channel or ideally the notes, and I can read those off as well. So that's how it works, and I will start after I find my spot and take a time code. Okay, first and foremost, I want to just say thanks to Katney for doing the newsletter and the notes-only meeting stuff over the holidays. Really appreciated it, that I didn't have to worry about it. Thank you to Crayola for Pixel Buff. This has been a long time coming, but for those of you who don't know, Pixel Buff is more RGB LED logic happening in C, which makes it much quicker to do NeoPixel animations and stuff like that. So really, really cool, and it looks like it's landing just in time for 5, so we should get everybody on that train pretty quickly, which will be awesome. Thanks to Jerry N for moderating Discord over the holidays. There were just a few minor hiccups, I think. Not too bad, but thanks for Jerry for keeping an eye out on things. I actually gave some feedback to Discord about wanting a way to know where mods, like people in a particular role, have looked, and I think that would be an interesting thing there. Hopefully they'll do it, but we'll see. Thanks to Arturo182 for releasing the IMX RT bootloader. It's really exciting. The IMX RT is anywhere from 400 megahertz up to a gigahertz. Cortex M7, they're super interesting chips, and Arturo's been paving the way for that and just released the bootloader, or at least pushed the code for the bootloader. So that's very, very exciting. 2 more. One is thank you to you, who is, or Uwe. It's German. I don't know how to pronounce it. The lead person on SIGROC, which is an open source logic analysis program. I was trying to get it running over the weekend, and he helped me through some issues just getting it building. So really appreciated that. And then lastly, a huge shout out to just everyone who's done CircuitPython 2020 posts. It's super fun to read everything that everybody is interested in doing. And it'll be a good discussion next week when we can coalesce all of those ideas into like a kind of overview for the year. So if you haven't done CircuitPython 2020, including myself, this week is the week to do that. So please either ping me on Discord, and we have an internal doc that we're just keeping track of what we blogged up. I could get it on the doc, or you can just email the CircuitPython2020@adafruit.com. That'll go to Phil and I. So that's it for Hug Reports for me. Let's circle around. And I think we're going to Android Ninja, who says... First, hug report to Hatak for getting me pointed in the right direction for BLE comms. Thank you to Luminescent Simeon for Android testing and feedback, Jerry N for Android testing and feedback, and lastly, Tanuk, Colin, and Trevor, I don't know their handles, for getting me in touch and sending along assets and videos from the iOS Bluefruit Playground app. And I should just say, for those of you who don't know, Android Ninja has been taking on recreating the Circuit Playground Bluefruit app on Android because Adafruit's only done it for iOS. So we got all the resources to them to make that happen, and lots of Android Ninja has been making lots and lots of exciting progress on that. So that's sweet. Anecdata and Ann are lurking, so let's go to Brent.
Hello. I have a bunch of hug reports this week. One is for Dylan for his work on migrating Travis to Actions and forcing me to learn Actions in the migration. It's really great. I've never used it before, and I'm excited to keep using it. Carter for their Display.io guide. It was written a while ago when Scott was finishing up Display.io, but I keep coming back to it as a reference, and it's a really good guide. Jerry for his work on fixing an issue with the mini MQTT client identifier. C. Grover for their work on the AMG camera. I used a similar thermal camera that we have in the store now for the Jupyter and CircuitPython guide. You might want to take a look at it. It's actually a really powerful camera. And I'm taking notes as you go about it to figure out what I can do on, like what somebody could do on their computer, which isn't really possible on the microcontroller because you keep pushing further on the microcontroller. It's really interesting to see the differences. Everybody for writing CircuitPython 2020 post. I have mine as a draft right now, and I'll finish it tomorrow morning. I read through a lot of them. I like Jetler's time post. I learned a lot. And Stargle's thought on packaging in CircuitPython, which kind of reflects my thoughts recently too. And a group hug.
Awesome. Thanks, Brent. Okay. C. Grover is text only, so I'll read it off. And C. Grover says, group hug with an extra layer of appreciation for the folks that built and contributed to Display.io. Awesome. Thank you, C. Grover. Okay, let's go to Charles.
Just a group hug because I haven't been doing a whole lot, but because of family issues. So, I'm still working on my various MIDI projects. So that's
nice.
And I've been getting information from various people. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Charles. And I hope everything is okay with your family.
Yes, it is.
Good.
It will be.
Good. Yeah. You'll make it through the rough patch.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thanks, Charles. Okay. Dakota's lurking, so let's go to Dan.
Hi. Okay. So, as others mentioned, thanks to Roy, known as Crayola, for working on Pixel Buff, which was a huge amount of work and had a lot of connections to other things. So it was sort of hard to do it a little at a time. So that's working out really well. And we already see people who are trying it and report big speed ups. Thanks to Dylan Harada, who has submitted more pull requests than anyone else per minute. So ever probably
Yep.
in the CircuitPython libraries. And so that was a huge amount of work converting all the Travis stuff to GitHub Actions, and we're glad it's basically done. And then thanks to Andrew Gatherer A on GitHub, who is working on a port of a library called MicroPython ULab, which is sort of like a miniature version of NumPy with FFTs and matrix inversions and other things like that. And he's getting it to work on CircuitPython. He's working with, I'm not even sure if he's in the group, but he's working on it for the Kickset Sprite satellite boards, which run on SAMD51. And also V923Z, who is the original author of ULab, has been very willing to consider changes to make it work with CircuitPython, like ifdefs and things like that. Okay.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan. Okay. Deshipu is text only and says, hug report to Dan for help with the USB HID output report handling code. And thanks to Tan Newt, myself, for review and great suggestions for a better interface. Thanks to Shipu. And let's go to Drew.
Yeah, thanks to Melissa for reviewing one of my pull requests for the BeagleBone in Blinka in pointing out some issues with it.
Great. Thanks, Drew. Okay, let's go to Hierophect.
Thanks. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep. Sounds
right.
good.
Okay. Thanks, Jeff and Scott, for helping with some guidance for the UF2. And I guess kind of in conjunction with that, thanks to the KittenBot team for getting back to me. And hopefully we'll be seeing some more of them with helping out with our PR for the KittenBot Meow Bit, which is a fun kind of PyGamer type board for the STM32, which I'm pretty excited about wrapping up support for. I've been working a lot on that recently. So hopefully we'll see more of that. And then beyond that, group hug, just because I've been off for the holidays. So
awesome. Thanks, Hierophect. All right. 18. Phil M, aka Hakuza Tuna, is text only today. Says first, group hug. Happy New Year to everyone. General hug. All who have participated in useful discussions and witty banter on Discord. And thank you to Maker Melissa for helping debug a transient CPB plus Gizmo display IO bug, which is interesting. Thank you to Andon and Mad Bodger for advising on good PCB design practices. And lastly, thank you to Jerry N for fixing the STM32F string.encode bug. Cool. Jacob is lurking. And Jason.
All right. Still hear me okay?
Yep. Yeah, sounds good.
Great. So first of all, this goes back a few weeks, but to Dan H, Stargirl, and Scott for helping me with doing another local build for the board we're developing. And so just kind of had to set on how to do that. So I appreciate the help there. And included changing some things. The first boards we built had a smaller flash part on it than we intend to have. Once again, to Kattni for the GitHub Learn Guide. That is awesome for someone like myself. Tricky all the time. Very well written. To John Park for the brief Winterbloom Soul demo that he dropped over the holidays. Stuff's really cool. And that kind of goes to Stargirl as well, again, for the design. It's a very nice to look at, and I enjoyed seeing the demo and finally hearing part of a chain, so it's not exactly clear to me what it is. Anyway, that was nice. And then group hug. I think it just was said here a moment ago, but I always like just... Everybody.
All right. Thanks, Jason. I think you were cutting in and out a little bit for me. but it's weird because you sound good when I hear you, and then it cuts off.
Confirm.
Okay, so it's not just me. Anyway, I think we got the gist of it based on the notes. Okay, something to test out for next week. Okay, let's go to Jeff.
Hi, I feel like I have a ton of hugs this week, or these 3 weeks, and I want to start with the group hug and a double group hug to everybody who is writing their CircuitPython 2020 blog entries. I think they are all great learning opportunities, and I blushed a little bit at the idea that I taught somebody else a lot about time in mine, and I worry, did I oversell my own expertise? But it's definitely something I'm interested in, and let's share our interests and make CircuitPython better in the process. And wow, that wrap up of the community news was really inspiring. So thank you, Phil, for that. Thanks to Scott and Summersoft for filling me in when I had some factual inaccuracies. One was about how pulse-in works, and the other was about Audio Mixer. And it was so fun to see Android Ninja and Luminescent Simian, whose names I didn't even recognize, just jump in and do all this stuff and do some great testing. And it just makes me feel so good to see it. Thanks to NIS for reaching out to me on the help channel about automatically created files in the CircuitPython file system. We were able to do a little education, and I think everybody knows a little bit more now. Thanks to Anne for helping me with my first post on Adafruit blog, and now I have 2. And thanks to Scott and Dan for some PR reviews, and we'll work through that stuff that you've suggested to change real soon.
Sweet. Thanks, Jeff. All right, let's go to Jerry.
Yeah, basically a group hug and Happy New Year to everybody. It was quite a year and really exciting to see all that's been happening. So much activity. And a special shout out, as others, to Android Ninja for the amazingly quick development of the Android version of the Bluefruit Playground app. I can't believe how fast that got done.
Yeah, really impressive.
Got out there to test.
Awesome. Thanks, Jerry. Okay, let's go to Kattni.
All right. So first and foremost, I want to say a hug report for Crayola for getting PixelBuff and PyPixelBuff merged. Super excited for fast animations. And this has been over a year in the making, I think a year and a half. It started at PyCon 2018. And so it's just amazing to finally see that put together. Tied into that is thanks for all the work on the LED animations library and for making our Christmas tree an amazing LED display, which getting that going and looking amazing was part of what drove managing to finalize PixelBuff and so on. So it all kind of works together, but a great hug report for that. I have one for Dylan for getting all the CircuitPython libraries moved over to Actions. My email box is exploding with PRs, and that is great to see. Thank you to Melissa for a super thorough review late on Friday of a PR needed. I needed it to finish up a guide. And Melissa caught a very tiny thing that could possibly have gone wrong with some of the code that I absolutely would have missed. And actually, it's been in the code for a long time and hasn't caused the problem, but it could happen. So that was very useful, and I was able to get that guide finished up. So thank you for doing that. To community moderators for keeping up with things over the holidays, especially Jerry for keeping up with things. It was great to be able to have some downtime over the holiday and know that things were taken care of. To Android Ninja for asking about the Android version of the new Circuit Playground Bluefruit app and then writing it when it turned out we didn't have it yet. It looks amazing, and that was incredibly unexpected. A lot of people say they're going to do that and then don't. So that was amazing, and thank you so much for all the progress there. And again, please let us know if you need any more help testing assets, so on and so forth. To Dan for a really helpful discussion over the holidays. And group hug to everyone writing CircuitPython 2020 posts. Thank you for your input and ideas. And a hug to everyone who has participated in CircuitPython throughout 2019 in any way. From commenting on Discord to contributing code to the core and libraries, you make CircuitPython what it is, and I'm looking forward to an even more amazing 2020. So thank you to everyone, and we look forward to seeing all of you who joined us in the last year continue, and we look forward to all the new people that will join us this year as well. And that is my hug reports.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kattni. Okay. Crayola's not here, but says, group hug, Happy New Year, Happy New Decade. Thank you to Tan Newt for his PR review. We finally got PixelBuff API changes merged. Very excited. Thank you to Kattni and Sedacious for helping me get PyPixelBuff ready to merge. And lastly, thank you to Tan Newt and Dan H for looking at the NRF soft device crashes and helping me figure out why NeoPixel Write was triggering it. And it turns out it's memory fragmentation. Okay, let's go to Melissa.
Hello. Okay. First of all, hug report to Lady Ada for handling all the new issues and PR as well as how there was a lot of them. A hug report to Dylan Harada for the massive number of GitHub Actions CI conversions you did over the past couple weeks. One for Summersoft for fixing merge conflicts on a PR he's submitted twice. And just group hug to everyone.
Awesome. Thanks, Melissa. Marius is looking, so we'll read off Entol, who has dad taxi duty. Entol says, general group hug to wish everyone a flourishing 2020. Sai is also lurking, and Sedacious is offline but has notes, so I will read those off. Sedacious says, Crayola, hug report to Crayola for making progress on and merging a bunch of long-term PRs around PixelBuff. Thank you to Dylan/D Harada for continuing to make progress slogging through, manually updating and creating PRs for the migration of the CircuitPython libs to GitHub Actions. Thank you to C. Grover for an awesome thermal camera app for the PyGamer and GridEye. Pretty much just worked. And a hug report to Maker Melissa and Noe for help with my new first 3D printer. I knew I was buying a science project and not an actual printer, but wow. All right. Let's go to Summersoft. Summersoft is text only and says, hug report to everyone who put up CircuitPython 2020 submissions. Hug report to D. Harada for pushing all of the GitHub Actions migrations. Updating every library manually is mind-numbing, so thanks for tackling that. And happy New Year's group hug. And lastly, we have notes from Tammy Makes Things. Tammy says, hug report to Tony DeCola for the porting an Arduino library to CircuitPython guide, which is proving invaluable right now. Hug report to everyone who wrote the display.io library and documentation. Now that I've figured out all the layers of abstraction, it's making the UI part of my current project much simpler. And a group hug for an amazing 2020. And that's it for hug reports. I don't think we got anybody new. All right, let's keep rolling. All right, next section is status updates, and we do it in the same way as a round robin. So rules apply if nobody's new, so we have lurking text-only stuff already, so let's keep going. We're 43 minutes in, and so we'll probably go over an hour. All right, let me start. First on my list is Homebrew Cask added GCC ARM back after the Homebrew folks decided it was too complicated to maintain to be able to actually build it. But they just reverted the deletion, and so it's old. So I have updated it before, so my plan is to just update it again. So I just want to knock that out. It shouldn't be too bad. That's first on my list. Over the weekend, I was playing around with making an easy logic analyzer. So I was playing around with SIGROC and stuff like that. And I also have the stuff that Dean was doing. He took a look at this as well. So I'm going to just kind of digest what direction Dean was going just to see where we ended up. And then I will take this as a point to say you can now sponsor me on GitHub. There's a bunch of different tiers. Basically, it's a way to supplement me and kind of like support me doing some other random stuff and not just CircuitPython that Adafruit pays me for. It's also, if I got enough money on there, I could actually maybe not work from home, which would be cool. Rather have like a lab where I can have even more retro computers all around me. So check out that if you're interested in sponsoring me to do a wider variety of projects. Today, I need to finish up the HID library change. We have BLE HID support, except it requires one change to the library. So that's going to be like my top priority after all of the meetings, newsletter stuff. So that's on my radar. I pushed a PR for Packet Buffer, which is a more packet-oriented BLE communication wrapper. It's needed for the Apple Media Service library, which I also pushed to a new repo, but I need to do like the follow-up lint PR to that as well. And that is also, the packet buffer stuff is also a dependency for BLE MIDI, so I'm hoping to get to that this week as well. The BLE MIDI work ties to the logic analyzer stuff because I want to hack some old piano keyboards to do BLE MIDI, and I need to know like I need to be able to look at a lot of like 64 logic level lines at once to kind of reverse engineer the key matrix. And then so the BLE MIDI is kind of on my radar. And then I also have to do my own CircuitPython 2020 post. I have an idea what it'll be, but I haven't written it out yet. And then I also am doing a PyCascades presentation in a few weeks that I started and I need to spend some more time on. So that's what's up for me. And let's circle around and see what's up with other folks. So let's go to Brent.
Hey, last week I had a really short week. I worked only Thursday and Friday. While I was here, I built up a PyPortal two-factor authentication friends. It's really useful. You don't need to go looking for your phone and open your two-factor authentication apps. I have 5 buttons on it, but somebody could probably extend it to more. They use a lot of services. The guide will be out by Wednesday. Then I'm building another planter guide. This is like the Cadillac of planter guides. It has like a 3D printed pot, graphics to show the saturation level of the root system. Like the roots will visually get more dampened or not. And some other interesting things that we can do with Adafruit IO, like weather forecasts for the future that we weren't able to do with other services. And then life stuff, actually going to be AFK a lot of next week. I'm moving to Massachusetts again. I'm actually transferring to a different master's program, which I feel is a better fit for me and allows me to work on a thesis underneath an advisor that I like.
Nice.
I'll be switching to a remote contractor, though I'll really miss working at HQ, and it's been an awesome year and a half. That's about it.
Well, you can always visit.
Yeah, exactly. Not that far.
Yeah. Are you going to be near Dan?
Yep.
Nice.
Within an hour.
Cool. Well, good luck on the move. It's always good to move to a spot you think is going to be better for you. It's always worth it.
Yeah.
You're going to be in Boston?
Yeah.
Close to Boston. So South Coast.
And hang out at Artisans.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's like 45 minutes.
Good working out.
Cool. We'll do a CircuitPython meetup there.
Heck yeah.
Sure, there's a bunch of other people here. That would be great.
Sweet. All right. We'll make it happen.
Awesome. Well, good luck. Okay. Next up is C. Grover, and I'll read C. Grover's updates off. First one is wrapped up the code and primary documentation for the AMG 8833 thermal camera project. It started out as a humble dryer duct monitor project and gained a life of its own. The camera features interactively adjustable range along with snapshot, histogram, and focus modes. Default range and alarm setup values are derived from a configuration file, so the primary code can be compiled to bytecode. The camera code automatically configures for a PyGamer or a PyBadge. Gained an appreciation for display I/O during the development process. Haven't tested it on an Edge badge yet, but expect it to behave like the PyBadge when running CircuitPython. And there's a link to a Twitter post and to a GitHub repo. He says, I'll be back in the recording studio this week and some of the next, putting the final wrap on some tracks. So the 3 pending purple PCBs will have to be content just staring at me, knowing they'll get some attention later. Might slip in some robotics platform coding in my spare time. Don't tell the purple PCBs. All right, that's it for C. Grover. Let's go to Charles.
Nothing much to report in the way of progress on anything other than somebody spoke of dealing with keyboard matrices.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I'm stuck.
Yeah.
That and I'm trying to also, another thing that I eventually am going to have to do is create drawbars for my Hammond B3 emulation.
Hmm.
And that's not so easy.
Yeah, I don't even know what a drawbar is.
Well, the drawbars are 8 segmented devices that where you pull them out and it brings in various stops for the B3. If you've ever seen a B3, it's those little things that they pull in and out. Those are called drawbars.
Okay.
In Hammond terms,
right?
And they have 8 increment. They have each one has 8 increments. I'm trying to figure out how to translate that eight increments into something that I can then translate into a MIDI controller.
Right. Does it actually? Is it a smooth pull? Because if it's smooth, you could just do like break beam IR.
I think it's I'm trying to find somebody who has a B3 so I can actually see the feel
right
of what what they're supposed to be, so that I think it's 8 clicks. 8 individual detents.
Right.
Because I've watched a number of videos of people playing, and when they pull them, it's like you can hear the click. So that tends to lead me to believe that there's notches.
Right.
Somehow.
Yeah.
But when I figured this out, I've got all of the I got the frequency listings for and what each stop does.
Right. Neat.
There's a Hammond wiki that had a page that was an absolute jackpot.
Nice.
Thank you. Good luck and have a good new year.
Thanks, you too, Charles. Okay, let's go to Dan.
Okay, so the biggest news is that over the weekend, Friday and over the weekend, I wrote all the code to do BLE bonding and then got it to compile, and I'm just about to start testing it, but I haven't even tried it in any way yet. So that could take a short or a long time to get working. We'll see. And then, as I mentioned in the Hug reports, there are these people who are porting this ULab library to CircuitPython. So they were a little bit stuck, or the main person doing it was a little bit stuck getting it to work in CircuitPython. And so I did pull it in and look at it and figure out what the problem was, which was fairly simple. And so they're on track, and there's already an example in the issue of a screenshot of now like inverting matrices inside CircuitPython, which is great. And then, so the bonding is by far the highest priority right now. And then also I need to write my CircuitPython 2020 post by the end of the week. I've been thinking about it, but I haven't put it down on paper or on keyboard, on electrons yet. Okay.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan. Okay, let's go to Deshipu. Am I supposed to read it off? Okay. For some reason it says Deshipu and then in parentheses Deshipu again, so I thought maybe he would. Okay. Deshipu says, first 20 Pew Pew M4s arrived today, sending them to testers. Second, the caps lock USB hid handling mysteriously stopped working for me and investigating that. And lastly, exploring the UF2 bootloader config, more in the weeds. All right. Thanks Deshipu, and let's go to Drew.
Yeah, I just started looking at it. I had not looked at it in a couple of weeks, but had been trying to add PWM support for the BeagleBone. It's already been added for the Pocket Beagle, and had a pull request that Maker Melissa pointed out some issues with. So looking at that again, trying to resolve that, and push a commit that we can then merge. And that's all.
Awesome. Thanks, Drew. Okay. Let's go to Hierophect.
So this past week, kind of a short week for me too. I've been working on a PWM issue that was only occurring on optimized builds of the STM32 port. So I fixed that, but it's now making me think that I probably need to do a big stability pass of most of the modules on STM32 just to make sure that they actually all are, work well in an optimized context. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time on that this week. I don't think it should take too long unless I turn up some more bugs, but at least I've got a good idea of what those could look like now. So hopefully wrapping that up pretty quick. I worked a bit on the Meowbit bootloader UF2 settings, which is coming along but not totally done yet. You can flash the Meowbit bootloader out of the box, which is great. But I'm not getting USB enumeration yet. So I'm chatting with the Kit and Bot team, the people who make the Meowbit, about that. And hopefully we'll be able to get over that. There's also some kind of tricky Meowbit issues that regarding the memory and the screen. So Flash and Display I/O do not play well together when they're running at the same time.
Right.
So maybe not taking a look at trying to make those work well together. If not, trying to figure out some way of having an internal file system so we don't have to worry about it. It's a bunch of trade-offs, so a little bit tricky. And then I guess lastly, I've been chatting with prepping for CircuitPython 2020. I've been chatting with my friend Don here, who uses CircuitPython much more as a user as opposed to me, who mostly just uses it as a developer. We've been talking about some scientific applications of CircuitPython and how a lot of people in his network are using it. So we're thinking about putting together a joint post on Power. So working a little bit on that. And then beyond that, just a bunch of probably optimization and trying to fix every issue that's associated with 5.5.0. So yeah, that's it for me.
Awesome. Thanks, Hierophect. Okay. Hakuza Tuna is text only, and I'll read it off. Actual work is the Adafruit CircuitPython Sphero library development. It says, dug out my Sphero collection and mapped the BLE complete name feature to robot type, and worked on BLE connection and what to do from a user input perspective if multiple robots are available. Distractions, job hunting is number one. CPP gizmo bug where a long loop to implement the netlogo forest fire code in CircuitPython runs for a random length of time before dying. Issue opened and Maker Melissa is helping, trying to figure out next analysis steps. Also designing a breakup board using the AS3935 lightning detector to surprise detect lightning. Actually figured out circuit design and bomb creation, still have some circuits to design, and then I'll have a board built. Massive temperature and pressure sensor comparison. Final 4 boards arriving today, so I have at least one of every sensor Adafruit makes. CPU temperature monitor and Adafruit I/O, and lastly, helping some new Discord users with how do I questions and advising folks in machine learning. Okay. Jacob T is lurking, so we'll go to Jason.
All right, I'm back. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Cool. Yeah, that reconnect worked, so.
Good.
So we are busy trying to get this latest board we're developing up and running, the Evo M51. It is running. We've got a handful of prototypes. It's working with Arduino. It runs CircuitPython. We're working on finalizing what the details of how the SAMD will interact with the FPGA and what that's going to look like. That's up and going. Actually, Max Maxfield wrote a nice little piece late last week that I didn't. over the holiday there, my wife has this ruggedized, like this big heavy duty flashlight that looked like it was about the right size. If you took the front end off from it, that would fit a TFT gizmo. And you're still getting cutouts. Okay. Well, I'll just keep talking, and I don't know what's going on my side. Must be having problems. But anyway, I pulled apart her flashlight, used it for a TFT gizmo, and was a big hit at the New Year's Eve party.
All right, thanks.
I'm sorry about that, guys.
No, it's weird enough that it might just be you pausing.
Oh,
some
really?
of it,
Yeah,
like. So just I would recommend just like go back and listen to it and just decide whether it's actually weird or not.
Yeah, that's strange. All right, well, my apologies for bad audio.
I'll
do something different.
I mean, the audio sounds really good. It's just when it cuts out, we can't hear you at all.
Okay.
But yeah, thanks, Jason, and excited for the Evo. It'll be neat.
Yeah, thanks. It was fun to be able to kind of evangelize CircuitPython with some of the engineering students out at our house.
Cool.
And so they were pretty excited about that. Yeah, it's cool.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I just hope we'll keep growing this year. Okay, let's go to Jeff.
Hi again. So during the break, I did a lot of work on Jet Player. It will now play all weekends without lockups or errors running out of memory. That led, I wrote several pull requests in the weekly, in the document, but I think it's one big ball of pull requests. I did my CircuitPython 2020 blog entry, which I was pleased to see got some reactions from people, so that's a lot of fun. And just out of randomness, I was working on the documentation of Adafruit Seesaw Python module. I added the ability to do pull downs, which was always enabled in the hardware. It was enabled in kind of the generic interface, but it was missing in the class which is compatible with digital in-out. And I converted the firmware build to GitHub Actions because why not? And all this is related to wanting to use KMK, which is a CircuitPython package for implementing keyboards with a seesaw to do the I/O for at least half of the matrix. This week, I'm starting to look at Audio Mixer, and I'm seeing some weird stuff, and I haven't fully characterized it yet. Some of the initial things I said on chat were not fully accurate, but what we'd like to do is get Audio Mixer just for one stream to do volume control of MP3 playbacks for Jet Player. I've got some review comments to respond to, and I think the route I'm going to take is to rename MP3 file to MP3 decoder, because just allocating all that memory up front once in a straightforward way to me is really valuable. And if a name change can make it make sense to have a settable name property or file property, then that's the way I'd like to go. And I've also got to respond to the review comments on my PR for avoiding lockups during SD card I/O, and that's going to kind of come back in the weeds. My ongoing fun project is my keyboard. The wiring is 3/4 done, and the layout will let me fit it on an ITSC NRF board, so we might get a Bluetooth keyboard out of this. And it turns out I don't need the seesaw for doing the keyboard matrix, so that work wasn't useful for me, but it will be for somebody else. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff. All right, let's go to Jerry.
Hi. Mostly spent most of the time working on trying to add the reliable datagram mode to the RFM 9X and 69 libraries. It's mostly working, but still some little nagging drops, and I'm trying to figure out, where things are problematic. I'm also trying to understand really, how reliable needs to be or should be.
Right.
The main thing is now when you miss a packet, you know it, or at least it there's some handshaking. The problems seem to come in if I have more than just two systems communicating. If there's multiple nodes, you can get some pretty bad collisions. And the Raspberry Pi side is the hardest one to get working, because there's definitely some delays on the Raspberry Pi that aren't present if you're running a microcontroller. So still playing with it, but having fun. Ran into a little issue with the mini MQTT library. It started with looking at the STM32 because it didn't have encode available. Turns out, I guess Hierophect is fixing that, and that should be updated soon. So it probably isn't necessary to fix the library to handle it. It'll be in those boards. But that, and then in the process, that found another little bug that Brent and I just worked out, and that's been updated, where you could get an error because the way it was trying to create a client ID based on the CPU ID, but the size of the CPU ID varies from processor to processor. So there was just a bug there. And let's see. Oh yeah, I really had fun playing with the Android Bluefruit app by Android Ninja. One of the great things is I in doing some feedback for them, I learned how to record sessions off my iScreen phone. That was really pretty cool. My iPhone screen. And and this week my main goal is to get a PR in for the reliable datagram stuff so people can start playing with it.
Awesome. Thank you for everything, Jay.
Yep.
All right, let's go to Katney.
Okay, so last week, this is a previously thing that ties into a lot of what I did last week. We updated the Circuit Playground library to work with Express and Bluefruit. And a single import now works with both boards and imports the appropriate features, which means we can have a single set of examples that work on both boards. So that being said, I updated the CircuitPython Made Easy on Circuit Playground Express and Bluefruit guide to support Bluefruit and the CircuitPython library examples, and all examples are now in that guide are now linked to the Circuit Playground library repository examples. So there's only one place to update from now on. I also went back and updated the documentation in the library itself to use the new import. So there's just a single set of examples. When I originally did the library update, I had two sets of examples, one for each Express and Bluefruit. So that is no longer the case. I updated some of the examples in the Circuit Playground repo to fit with the guide updates. That meant adding a couple simple ones and just tweaking a little bit how a few of them worked to match what was originally in the guide. And then helped with getting PyPixelBuff ready for merging. This week, I need to finish the final QA of the CircuitPython Made Easy guide, or final review rather, before sending it for QA. It's just a matter of reading through it and making sure I didn't miss anything. I'm about halfway done with that already. I need to update the README on the Circuit Playground library to use the new import and explain the requirements for the update. I received some questions over the last couple weeks about the new version of the library and what is necessary for it and so on, and we don't really explain that anywhere, and the README is a good place for that. So that'll be a quick update there. I realized I should have already done this, but I did not. There are features that are available in the Circuit Playground library that only work on Bluefruit, and there should be a not implemented error raised if you try to import them on Express. So I will be updating that. I don't expect that we will re-release, or that I don't expect that we will update the frozen version in 4.0 or 4.1. But obviously we can get it into the 5.0 updates as we go. And then once that's done, I have an update to the sound meter code to work for both Express and Bluefruit. But it doesn't require the not implemented error update, but it assumes it's there. So that will be two things done in order. I still need to update the Circuit Playground Bluefruit NeoPixel animator code to have the streaming prints optional for Gizmo purposes. It speeds up the code if someone is using it with a Gizmo attached, which is a common thing now. So that I need to do again. That's a really quick PR to the Learn repo. Once the CircuitPython Made Easy guide is QA'd, I need to add redirect links to the Circuit Playground Express and Circuit Playground Bluefruit guides. To link that guide was never linked from either of those guides and definitely should have been. So we're going to fix that. I need to write my CircuitPython 2020 post. And then my next project is redoing the TB6112 Arduino guide in CircuitPython. We have support for it using the Adafruit CircuitPython motor library. We just never redid the guide. So it'll be, I haven't actually looked at it, but the gist of it is a basic guide using Adafruit CircuitPython motor. We have some examples, but there was no guide on wiring it up and utilizing it and that sort of thing. So that will be fixed. And in the relatively near future, I'm going to update the README in the Circuit Playground library to explain how the library actually works. We very rarely get that question, but the type of person who would find the README is the type of person who may want to know.
Right.
So putting it in a guide, not so smart, because it is complex. And if all you're trying to do is use the library, it's very unnecessary information. If you want to understand what it's doing and why it is that certain things don't work on Circuit Playground Express and why it is that you can't use it with other complex code, this is all, at least on Express anyway, this is all information that is a good home for it would be in the README on the library. And so that is going to be updated sometime in the near future. And then in a couple weeks, I will probably be doing a guide for the LED animations library, which will include either the Christmas tree example that we showed on Show and Tell over the holidays, or some sort of not quite so holiday specific example that uses the same concepts and code, because the library has some very complex things you can do with it to do some really amazing animations, but they definitely need some explanation. We included examples in the library itself, in the library documentation. However, it's very isolated. It's just a copy and pasted example of how to format that particular feature, and formatting that particular feature doesn't really tell you how to use it. So that will probably be a thing that will happen. So people will not have to try to extrapolate the complexity of the Christmas tree from the wreath guide that I did, which was kind of what we've been telling people to do so far, because I've been asked multiple times whether or not there was a guide on how to do any of it. And that was the closest thing that was available. So that is what's going on with me.
Awesome. And I did actually take the LED animations library and use it here. It was really easy. Just got the comment going.
Exactly. And the animations themselves are super simple. It's just that you can do this complex thing with aggregate pixels so that you can take a strip that is wrapped around something and have it treat each level as a separate section. And so you can do animations that go top to bottom. When normally it would go serially along the strip. Stuff like that. So that's the complex stuff that if people want to know how to do it, it will probably require a guide.
Yeah, I think a guide would be good because it's got a lot of really cool stuff in there, and it'd be good to teach people the mental model and all that. But it's neat. I'm excited to see it.
Excellent.
Cool.
Thanks.
Thank you, Katney. Okay. Roy has notes as well. In the last weeks, fought with and eventually gave up on native method calling a non-native subclass method fill calling show. Created a fill helper that NeoPixelPy and Adafruit.star can use. Addressed PR changes for the pixel buff work. Dug into and eventually found why NeoPixel write with large strips on NRF was crashing with large strips, thanks to help from Dan and Tanute. Set up PR for a fix that reuses the same malloc memory. Finished up Adafruit CircuitPython PyPixelBuff pending the merge. Fixed up documentation on the Adafruit CircuitPython LED animation in the More Magic branch. Needs code review and doc review. Updated the PixelBuff branches of Adafruit CircuitPython NeoPixel and Adafruit CircuitPython .star to work with the latest PixelBuff changes. Still needs PyPixelBuff published so it can be tested. Pushed up my ANSI NeoPixel strip simulator to GitHub at rhooper/CircuitPython_terminal_pixels. Yeah, I think this is like emulate a NeoPixel strip in your terminal, which sounds really, really wild. And Roy says, this week, whatever comes out of PR reviews. So let's go to Maker Melissa.
Hello. So Last week, I added some CircuitPython.org website features, such as displaying the number of boards for both the downloads and Blinka. I also added the clue board. I worked on trying to narrow down an elusive bug for Kuzatuna's fractal generator. I finished up writing the PyTFT animated GIF player or excuse me, GIF player, I guess it's supposed to be pronounced, and started on the guide for. I started working on the HT16K33 updates and added the set digit raw function to be able to create custom characters. And I got my Onion Omega 2 set up for adding Blinka and updated the requirements to not install a couple items that were blocking the installation on this platform to this small memory footprint. And so I was able to test out a PR for the platform detect and got that added. This week I'm gonna finish writing the animated GIF player guide. It should be pretty quick. I'm gonna test out Summersoft's PR for Ubuntu on the Raspberry Pi 4, and I'm gonna write my CircuitPython 2020 post and continue updating the HT16K33 library and guides.
Awesome. Thank you, Melissa.
Yeah.
Okay. Marius and Sai are lurking. So Sedacious is offline, but I'll read it off. Sedacious says, did a bunch of PR reviews for Dylan's Actions PRs. The unsung hero, I think. Editing the MCP 4728 guide to do a better job explaining and giving examples of using vref. Worked on adding some Arduino libs to Actions. Got Octoprint set up with a nice touchscreen. Bed leveling issues convinced me to get a auto bed leveler. And next is more driver work. All right. And after that is Summersoft. Summersoft says, last week with Cookie Cutter, fixed an issue with GitHub Actions files being parsed as Jinja templates. Thank you for that. Fixed it for myself. Wrote some tests that will build from the cookie cutter, so issues like the above can be caught during PRs and pushes, which is cool. Adafruit Python platform detect fixed merge conflicts after some other PRs were merged and retested non-Raspbian detection on Ubuntu server 1904 and 1910. Rosy Pie, red. Security and authorization techniques are hard to get a solid grasp on, especially in edge case designs. This week, more reading and likely some more reading. So thanks to Summersoft. And next up, we have notes from Tammy Makes Things. Tammy says, last week, ironed out almost all of the UI code for my current project, save one remaining issue. I think it has to do with global variables. Once I sort out what's wrong, I'll document it in case other relative newbies trip over the same issue. Began the work of porting the Arduino Max 3010X Pulse Aux sensor library to CircuitPython. Several companies, including SparkFun, make breakout boards for this sensor. In order to keep things simple and standard, I'm going to develop and test with the MaxRef DES 11.7 reference board because it's standard and available for under $20 from DigiKey and the other usual places. The interface is I2C, so the various other boards should work too, but I want to minimize hardware variation as much as I can. And set up a Medium publication for blogging things, which is medium.com/tammy-makes-things. This week, continue work on the Max 3010X library port. I want to get the basic library stuffed out and confirm that it can talk to the sensor okay. Goal is to have V1 of the port done and V1 of my current project show and tell worthy by the end of February. The sensor module provides an interrupt line. I'm trying to determine if my implementation uses that for anything. If not, I'd like to see if I can make the sensor connection via stemma. Fix the one remaining bug in the UI code for my current project, so the only remaining dependency it has is on the Max 3010X library. Note, I may also change the hardware configuration from PyBadge plus sensor to CPX plus TFT gizmo. And last up, write a CircuitPython 2020 blog post. And that is it. We are through status updates. Awesome to hear what everyone is working on. Thank you to that. And let's go to In the Weeds. In the Weeds is a chance for us to talk about any issues that have come up. We've got 2 in here. If you have other issues we'd like to talk about, please drop them in the notes. We are a little later than we normally are, but it's also because we're coming back from a few weeks off. So no worries. I can keep going so we can get through all this. So first and foremost, let's kick it over to Jeff.
Hello. So there is this PR where there's a wide variety of ways that you can lock up CircuitPython if you are performing I/O to the SD card, and then within the background tasks, you try to do it again. So for instance, if you are listing a file system and trying to play back an MP3 file, it locks up. And alongside this, I've been looking at, well, how long do IOs to the SD card even take? And the answer is the most basic read of one block from an SD card is taking 7 milliseconds. And so if that happens in, say, display IO, that blocks any other background task for 7 milliseconds, which is a pretty long time. And so, Dan, you had told me that there are things that need to happen every 1 millisecond. So I'm kind of confused as to how everything isn't already ruined, I guess would be the short version of the statement. What am I overlooking, and where do I go from here?
So yeah, that's a good question. I don't know why using on disk bitmap in the background isn't screwing things up. It might be because it is, but it doesn't happen very often.
Right,
Or
and I
might-
didn't look, for instance,
Yeah.
whether it's throwing time keeping off, which is the thing that we see when
It
lots of
might
background
well
stuff
be.
happens.
Yeah, it might well be because of that. But I mean, since we don't have any operating system, the only things that happen asynchronously are interrupts or this business when we run. So the background task runner basically runs every like every few opcodes in the virtual machine.
Mm-hmm.
And it happens that it usually will probably run at least every 1 milliseconds. But there are several issues where people say it's not keeping time. Okay. It's not so much an issue maybe with Bluetooth because that's all interrupt driven.
Well, keeping time is
soft-
interrupt driven too, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but I
Sysdig
don't
is
know
an interrupt.
why. I mean, we've seen people who say that time monotonic is losing time or
Right.
something like that. So, and we haven't figured that out either. It might be a higher priority interrupt locking out
Yeah.
the timekeeping one or something. But in general, the interrupt tasks should not run for very long. I mean, the background tasks should run quickly.
Right.
Now, Scott, you can maybe say something about what happens. Like, I think the display refresh stuff does a certain amount of work, and it looks to see whether, okay, I should stop now and return. But I don't know. I don't remember that. I didn't study that code or anything.
I don't think it does. I think if you're doing a full screen refresh, you're gonna do the full refresh before you return from the background task. Like, it's not gonna partially update the screen just to get the VM going again.
Okay. But that won't. So if it were reading, like if it was displaying a bitmap color image or something, it still doesn't. That doesn't block up. That's not a background refresh. That's not a single background refresh.
It does
Isn't
take place
background
in the
refresh
background.
required for USB? Because I mean, like otherwise, if you had a really big image, you would probably screw up or USB by not servicing it enough, right?
Right. So that's why I think it's
Right.
not. It's not the whole thing. Right. So I mean, USB is it's good to service USB every millisecond. And if there were a lot of data coming in on USB, you might get in trouble.
Right.
if you weren't doing that because the buffers would fill up, but maybe it doesn't happen that often. So the short answer, I mean, because USB requires polling, it's not this interrupt. The USB tasks have to run by polling, not by interrupts. Then this is a problem, or
Right.
this is a potential problem. So in general, you don't want things to run for more than a millisecond in run background tasks. So, but it might be true that they are, okay? It's just
Right.
that it's not a good idea. So,
I've been wondering in the context of the Meowbit issues whether I'm seeing SPI flash and display IO things being put together and timing out USB,
Right.
which is sort of a similar context.
Yeah, I think in display IO, I think in times I've actually called the USB task myself if I'm doing a loop
Yeah,
and
I
waiting
think
for
that's in
something.
there.
Yeah. So I think I wouldn't block anything based on it running too long. I think that I have to look at this PR again, but I think the general idea would be if you're worried about like from display IO calling SPY and then it calling display IO again, I would just add a volatile to prevent like, but I think it's there. I think it's already there so you don't like recursively update the screen.
Right. So what happens is you do something that will cause a display update, and that includes an on-disk bitmap.
Right.
And then you start doing another SD operation in the foreground, like listing a directory, opening a file, and reading its contents in the foreground. And so then
But it shouldn't like
that goes into the disk read code that comes back out into Python, and now you're able to start a background task because you're in that bytecode loop that Dan mentioned. When it enters that, it's trying to claim the bus device because you're recursively calling the Python SD card reader. It tries to claim the bus device that it's already claimed and start a new SPY transaction.
And then it just hangs?
And it just hangs at that point because it never claims the bus.
Because the Python code is like, I can just sit and wait forever.
Mm-hmm.
so I think that there should be a recursion preventer, that there should be the SD card access should be serialized so that it will wait for the. I mean, it sounds like the locking is not working, that there's a deadlock happening. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's a deadlock.
Yeah.
Waiting for the SPY device, but it's the same thing waiting on it both times, as in the one user of the SD card. You could also arrange it so that one was display and one was SD if they're on the same SPY bus, I suppose.
Right. So what? But I'm just saying, like, you shouldn't even attempt to start an SD operation if another SD operation is in process.
Right.
So there should be some locking associated with the SD card in particular,
And
as opposed
so
to just.
it would do what? Return an error on the read, on the inner read.
Well, we'd have to maybe change the API so that you get like a soft error. Yeah, like it's in use or something, or you busy wait for it or something.
Well, are you saying the outer loop is the display updating?
Let me find that
the
issue
backtrace.
because there's a traceback on it.
Because I wouldn't expect any foreground code to run while the display's updating.
The foreground code starts running because display has to read the SD card for the on-disk bitmap.
Right,
and then it runs.
But that's like different Python code than the higher level code.
Yeah, but then what happens is there's a recursive call to the background task.
Right, which shouldn't.
Because it's going to call run background tasks while it's in the middle of running a background task. So I thought that was caught already.
Yeah, I thought so too.
I thought it would just say, I'm not going to bother to run. I'm already calling it recursive. Maybe not. But
oh yeah,
I mean, you don't want You don't want to call run background task recursively, period.
Well,
You don't. This doesn't require background tasks to be called recursively. So look at the second link that I sent. There's a traceback with 35 frames.
right.
It's not the whole stack back to main, but it's what I think is relevant. So the outermost frame 35 is calling os.stat.
You
That
don't want
does
to
things-
you don't want to refresh recursively.
That then is calling into disk read, which calls back out to Python at like frame 20 through 25, and that is in the CircuitPython SD card library. It's running Python code, so it runs background tasks. That gets into frame 9, it's calling read again. Those are both reads to the SD card. The outer one has the lock. The inner one never completes, it's dead.
So it looks like, so a refresh is happening. 41 is calling refresh, but that's not inside a background task.
Right.
Frame 41. So
right,
what
looking
should
at the other
happen?
traceback, yeah.
Right. So what should happen is that there should be a lock here. There should be a recursive check so that display IO background doesn't do anything.
Right.
Like at frame 20 should have a check to say, is there a refresh already in process? Oh, I should just return.
Yeah, something like that would address the,
Yeah, in frame 20
the
or
specific
21.
traceback of that initial comment. But then
Right.
if you look down at that third comment, it doesn't involve trying to do the display twice. It involves stat and run background tasks.
Right. So maybe what I'm saying is that if there's an SD operation in progress, since you don't know whether display IO is going to do SD or not. Okay, so there's two things that you could do. One is that sort of the clunky, the crude way of doing it is just don't do anything in display IO background if an SD operation is in process, because it might call the SD code. Okay, it's not necessarily going to, but it might. So that's not very good. But I don't know how we can anticipate whether it's going to call that. Or inside inside refresh, whatever, fill area or something further down, if it gets a request for an on-disk bitmap, it should just give up. But I don't know if it can give up and without leaving things in a bad state. Okay.
Right, and those same how does it give up will also apply if the background task is reading an MP3 file, because you do need to fill that buffer regularly, right?
Yeah. So that's just a real problem that you really, like if you're playing an MP3 file, you shouldn't be doing other SD operations at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
or you
so
shouldn't be using display. Yeah.
Yeah, I work around it in JetPlayer by carefully disabling refresh during these times and calling show during those times and so forth, and it works out. I just feel like this will catch people, and I'd like to, have the core do the right thing, but
right, is the right thing
seem to be an easy right thing.
Is the right thing to create a lock around when we do a call out to the VM with the SD card stuff? So like in VFS FAT, if we're calling back to a Python thing, then we just say like don't within this sub Python VM don't run background tasks.
Or don't run display, right? Don't run things that might not any background task, because that's what I'm saying is that the original PR disables all background tasks, and that's a bad idea. But we should disable background tasks that might use the SD card.
Or can't VFS FAT just detect when it's called recursively?
Yeah, but then it would just fail, and then what would happen? Then that would screw up. You'd be getting an error inside display IO.
I'm kind of sick of having this recursive VM stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I would totally be okay just swapping out for a native SD card support. Like, this is the only case where we have to run a VM while the VM is running. Like,
Right. I agree with that. I mean,
It's
and
a pain in the ass.
right. And I was
So-
hoping, I was like, it was sort of on my long-term agenda to
Right.
take, and in fact, there was the idea is, well, why can't we use the Arduino library or the SDFAT, the C live SDFAT Arduino library.
Right.
But when I looked at that, it was like not, there was a lot more code in there having to do with the file system,
Right.
which we have a fine file system. We don't need to substitute the file system stuff. What we need to substitute are the basic block
block
read
layer.
write stuff. Yeah. And so I didn't see an easy way to factor that out.
Right.
Or it wasn't sort of separable from the rest of the SDFAT library. I didn't look at it for very long.
Yep.
So maybe it is. But I agree. I mean, it's neat that the way that they did it in the MicroPython, because you can have any block device.
Right.
But it's also not neat because it has these terrible problems. Okay.
Right. Although I was on the verge of, and now I understand something a little more about why the code is structured that way. In that when it goes to do a file operation, it isn't arranging to call like the same Python function you would call if you called .read. It goes down to the layer of fat directly. We've talked about, I put forward the idea of doing a podcast player on PyPortal since there's Wi-Fi, but then you're going to need to have the MP3 decoder calling out to Nina
Right.
to get those network packets. So this would reintroduce what we're trying to get rid of. And, if we just want to say, well, that's how it's going to have to be, and, maybe we create something else to enable that, or maybe we just can't do that, and you'd have to download it to your SD card and then play it from the SD card.
Right.
That's fine. Somebody else had mentioned in passing that, the C implementation of SD.io just wouldn't fit on M0 devices. So would we keep it on some devices as it is and then have this better layer on the more capable boards, like the PyPixelBuff idea, or what would we do as a long-term for code?
I don't know the answer to that. I mean, that was my speculation that it wouldn't fit because it has to be
more
in
than
Flash.
300 bytes.
Yeah.
I mean, I wonder how much we're winning back by removing. Well, I guess NeoPixel Frozen should get smaller with PixelBuff, but
yeah, but it still wouldn't work on trinkets or something. So I mean, we just don't have the space.
Right, but do you have enough pins to do SD cards on trinkets?
Well, on a Feather M0 Basic, you do, say, or something. So maybe not trinkets, but something else that doesn't a non-express board.
Yeah.
So.
Well, but the other SD implementation would still be there if somebody needed it.
Right.
We'd have this new, better one that people would get by default, or get when they followed the updated guides or whatever.
Now, and I don't really know even what happens. Like, so if we do service USB traffic, like, why aren't we running into? Well, no, never mind. I was thinking of something else. I was saying, the mass storage stuff, but that doesn't talk to the SD card, so it doesn't matter.
Right.
But I think the short-term fix is if you're doing SD operations, don't call any background tasks that could do SD operations.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's something that you would do inside run background tasks.
Okay, so something that moves the check down from every background task to display and
to specific background
audio.
tasks.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Would be much more acceptable.
Yeah.
Right.
That's fine with me.
And that's the substitute in the short term. In the long term, we add an RTOS. Okay, so I think
that doesn't help us with the VM. Oh, that doesn't help us with the Python VM side of it. Like an RTOS.
We would have to give the Python VM the tools to say block this now.
Right.
Whatever this is.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it has to be a complete rethink of the tasks.
Yeah.
Of task scheduling. Right now, the Python VM it's in charge, or it wants to run.
Yep.
It's not a task that's run background tasks. It's not on the same it's not a sibling task. It's like a different kind of task. Run background tasks is not a scheduler.
Right.
Okay. If the whole thing were an operating system, then the Python VM would be running just as another task.
Right.
And there would be all kinds of queuing and stuff for the I/O operations.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna move us on.
Yeah, this is really hairy. Yeah.
Yeah. That's why it's called In the Weeds.
That's right.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, no problem. Okay. We got one more. And I think this should be pretty quick, but Deshipu wanted to say the UF2 bootloader has some configuration built into it, including the values for the display initialization. They're easy to read in code, and if we use them in the display initialization, we could share the same UF2 for devices with different displays, as the differences would only be in the bootloader. I made a pull request for PPU M4 that makes it take the offsets for the display from the bootloader, because the production devices I received have different displays than the prototypes I use. And I don't really want to separate firmware from them, but this could be used in a more general way, maybe even replacing pins.h. Right. Yeah, and I think they did this stuff because they wanted to generally have one binary for different boards. And I would say, cool. Like, I'm totally okay with that. I think there is something to be said for having all of the different binaries we have, because it's just like, oh, this is the board I have. I download it and it works. But if you have this, if you leverage CF2 in your PRs, like, I'm totally okay taking those. I'm totally okay basing on that.
I'd be a little. I think it's going to be fine for the M4s. It's not. There's not going to be room on the M0 in the 8 kilobyte UF2 bootloader for this information. So.
Right.
An account on the Discord.
What, Lucian?
Because we're starting a CircuitPython meetup.
Are you talking to me?
Huh?
I don't understand what you're talking about. Okay, yeah.
Sorry, was my mic on? My bad.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
You're talking to somebody else.
I'm sorry. I was talking to somebody at A2. My bad.
No problem. No problem.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Toshiba, I think if you want to use CF2 for that, having different displays on the same board, that's totally fine. All right, I'm going to wrap us up. That's it. CF2 is a good option for folks who need it. But this is our longest meeting, I think, ever. So let's wrap up. And this was the CircuitPython Weekly for January 6th, 2020. This happens every week on Mondays at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, on the Adafruit Discord server, which you can join by going to the URL adafru.it/discord. And that will drop you in and join the text chat. You could chat with us there, or the voice chat is where we are during the meeting. The meeting was recorded, so be aware that the voices in here and the video of the text channel have been recorded. They will be posted on the Adafruit YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Adafruit. We also have podcasts of the audio from that video, so if you are a podcast listener, check that out. I think we're on most services. I haven't heard that we're not on one that people use, so if we are, let us know. We'll get it up there. Otherwise, you should be able to grab it there. I also post it to Diode Zone occasionally too, so check that out too. And notes will go along with that, along with time codes, so you'll be able to skip around if you want to hear particular things there. And other than that, I think next week we're on normal time. And as a reminder, I was hoping that next week would be kind of the wrap up for us talking about all of the different CircuitPython 2020s. So expect to see a lot of those this week. And if you haven't gotten yours out, we'd love to hear from you what you want from CircuitPython in 2020. If you need ideas on what those posts can look like, just go on the Adafruit blog, blog.adafruit.com, and check out, just search for CircuitPython 2020 and you'll see the examples there. So anyway, that's it. And thank you everybody for taking the time out. And we're happy to have you all here to kick off 2020, and look forward to chatting with you the rest of the year.
Thanks, everyone.